I drove a domestic car to attend a high school reunion. When I arrived at the hotel, most of my classmates were already there. They were all doing quite well, driving either Mercedes or BMWs, and there was even a black Rolls-Royce. As soon as I got out of the car, a female classmate, whose name I couldn't remember, looked at me with total disdain. "Oh, isn't this our class's study committee member? How did you end up like this after graduation, still driving a domestic car?" During the meal, everyone eagerly toasted the Rolls-Royce owner, completely ignoring me. Only the class leader sat beside me with a glass of wine, offering comfort. "It's okay. Even though your car isn't as good as theirs, I believe that one day you'll drive a luxury car too." The corners of my mouth lifted slightly as I softly replied, "This isn't just any ordinary domestic car. Its name is Phantom S9. If it weren't for the class leader sending me message after message, I wouldn't have had the time to attend the reunion." Out of respect for old friendships, I canceled an important meeting and managed to free up just an hour. But to my surprise, there wasn't a single conversation about our youth at the table. It was all bragging and flattery. I didn't like the atmosphere, so I got up, ready to leave. Seeing this, the class leader immediately reached out to stop me. "Fernando, there's nothing shameful about driving a domestic car. Don't be in such a rush to leave," the class leader said. Just as I was about to reply, the same female classmate who mocked me earlier shot me another disdainful glance. Exactly. It's been so many years since we've seen each other. Don't you want to catch up with everyone? But judging by the looks of it, it seems no one's really eager to talk to you. In the end, she burst out laughing. I looked up at her and spoke coldly. "No need. I only came this time out of respect for the class leader. In the future, don't bother inviting me to such pointless gatherings." As soon as I finished speaking, Raphael, who was surrounded by everyone like the center of attention, suddenly stood up. "Fernando, what do you mean by that? Are you saying we're not worthy of dining together?" He had clearly twisted the meaning of my words on purpose. But the people around didn't see it that way. "Oh, driving a cheap domestic car and still looking down on others? Before coming, I thought top students like you were something amazing. But it turns out you're nothing special. What's the use of good grades? After graduation, you still ended up as just a civil servant." "A civil servant?" Well, she was not entirely wrong. All public officials in the country could indeed be classified as civil servants. "Fernando, I think you're just upset because you feel ignored and now you're making excuses to leave. People are naturally divided into different ranks. So what if your grades are great? In the end, you're still just a lowly civil servant." I just wanted to leave this place quickly, but Raphael's comment unexpectedly stirred up collective anger. "Everyone, I truly apologize for today, but I have an important meeting to attend shortly." "Well, today's meal is on me. Feel free to eat and drink whatever you like. Just have the restaurant send me the invoice later." As I reached out to grab my coat, a seductive figure blocked my path. "Oh, acting like a big shot when you don't have the money? This meal will cost at least thousands of dollars. Can you even afford it with that measly salary of yours?" She was dressed in a fiery red dress, her lipstick just as strikingly bright. But the overwhelming scent of perfume was unbearable, and I couldn't help but sneeze several times in a row. "Fernando, what's with that look in your eyes? Don't you remember me?" I carefully studied her for a moment before shaking my head. "Sorry, I met too many people over the past few years. I guess I'm bad at remembering faces." The truth was I had absolutely no idea who she was. She raised an eyebrow and let out a mocking laugh, saying, "Fernando, don't play this whole hard-to-get act with me. You chased me for 3 whole years back in high school." The moment she finished speaking, a familiar image surfaced in my mind. Still, the woman in front of me was far different from how she looked in high school. I hesitated for a moment before asking cautiously, "Are you Mariana?" As soon as I said her name, a triumphant look spread across her face. "So many years have passed, yet you still haven't forgotten me." Halfway through her sentence, she suddenly changed her tone. "But I need to warn you, don't get any inappropriate ideas about me. I'm engaged now, and my fiancé is none other than Raphael." "Raphael?" The name sounded somewhat familiar. Wasn't he the owner of the Rolls-Royce at the entrance? Is still? What did any of this have to do with me? There was still a large group of people waiting for me in the conference room to start the meeting. If I didn't leave soon, I was going to be late. Seeing me remain silent, Mariana lightly patted me with her manicured hand. "Civil servants don't make much money. How about you drive for my fiancé instead? I'll have him pay you $1,000 a month. That's got to be better than your measly salary." As soon as she finished speaking, the crowd burst into laughter. I couldn't understand it. Why did people like them always feel the need to humiliate others just to elevate themselves? This would be my last time attending such a class reunion. I ignored Mariana's mockery and casually grabbed my coat, putting it on. Are you done? If so, step aside. I have things to do. I had barely taken a few steps when Raphael, who was sitting across from me, suddenly slammed his hand on the table. Immediately, a dozen or so burly men in black suits rushed into the room. I noticed the nameplates on their chests. Fitzroy Group. It was a well-known industry leader in Langston City. Raphael downed a drink in his glass in one go, then burped. Fernando, did I say you could leave? I couldn't help but narrow my eyes. My legs are attached to my body. Do I need to report to you about where I'm going? Raphael burst into laughter after hearing my words. You're just a lowly civil servant. Don't you realize whose turf you're on? The whole restaurant is owned by my family. Don't you think you need my permission to leave? You're not walking out that door today. The class leader sensed the tension and immediately stepped in, saying a few polite words to ease the situation. Hey, both of you calm down. We've been classmates for over a decade. No need to let something so small ruin the mood. Halfway through, the class leader suddenly turned to me. Fernando, come on. We've finally all gathered together. How can you just leave early? Sit back down, let's have a drink, and catch up properly. I knew the class leader was trying to smooth things over for me, but my time was really running out. Sorry, I know I'm ruining the mood, but I truly have something important to take care of. There's a whole group of people in the office waiting for me to get back for a meeting. I had barely finished speaking when Raphael slammed the table again. Fernando, cut the act. You're just a low-level civil servant. What kind of meeting could you possibly have to attend? So you're saying a whole group of people is waiting for you? Do you really think you're some kind of leader now? I was being polite calling you a civil servant. Without that, you're just another lousy worker. Got it? I was just about to retort when the class leader quickly grabbed my hand, whispering a plea. Fernando, I think you'd better apologize to Raphael. The Fitzroy family is a leading enterprise here in Langston City. If you offend him, you might lose your job. Sometimes it's better to just endure. Raphael could make me lose my job. If I hadn't stayed sober today, I might have thought I was drunk. Given my current rank, the only way to remove me from my position would be through a direct official order from higher authorities. No matter how wealthy the Fitzroy family might be, even if their wealth rivaled nations, they couldn't possibly have any real influence over me. I gently patted the back of the class leader's hand, signaling him not to worry. Raphael, if your hostility toward me stems from the fact that I once had a crush on your fiancée, then let me make it clear. I have absolutely no interest in Mariana. I suggest you focus your energy elsewhere. You and I are not the same kind of people. I had planned to use this reunion as an opportunity to clear things up and resolve the misunderstanding with Raphael, but it turned out his mind couldn't process things that way. He stared at me with bloodshot eyes. Fernando, from the way you're talking, are you saying I picked up some kind of trash and that my fiancée is a woman even you wouldn't want? Also, what do you mean by you and I aren't the same kind of people? Langston is full of businesses owned by my family. Who do you think you are? As soon as Raphael finished speaking, Mariana immediately stepped forward to back him up. Fernando, what do you mean by that? Do you think I'm no longer good enough for you? Now, you're not leaving here today unless you explain yourself clearly. Although that was indeed what I thought, I bit back the words to save them some dignity. I don't have time to chat with you too. Tell your people to open the door. Despite Raphael's repeated provocations, I didn't get angry. Instead, I chose to back down again and again. After all, this was a class reunion. I didn't want to ruin the mood. But just as I was about to leave, Raphael's bodyguard seized me firmly, blocking my way. Raphael strutted over, exuding arrogance, and slapped my face with force. You really think you're somebody now, huh? Do you even know whose name this hotel carries? Back in school, weren't you the one always tattling on people? Go ahead, make a call. I'd like to see if anyone's still willing to help you now that we're no longer in school. Clenching my teeth, I locked eyes with him. Raphael, this is your last warning. Back in school, you were lazy and useless, always fighting or skipping class. I told the teachers for your own good. Now that you're an adult, remember to think about the consequences before you act. Raphael's eyes scanned the room, surveying our classmates. You all heard that, right? He says I should think about the consequences. Haha. Fernando, even if I ruin you today, what are you going to do about it? Do you really think being a top student makes you a big shot? Before you step out of here, you should have checked just how much weight the Fitzroy family carries in Langston. I slowly lifted my head, holding back my anger with great effort. Raphael, have you ever heard the saying, there's always someone bigger, someone stronger? Some people are not to be trifled with. I advise you to let go of me now, or you'll be the one regretting it later, not me. I took a deep breath, keeping my eyes fixed on Raphael. The silence in the room was almost suffocating, but I wouldn't let myself be intimidated. He might have money, power, and even bodyguards to try and pressure me. But at the end of the day, I knew exactly who I was. And Raphael, no matter how much he tried to convince himself otherwise, was nothing more than a spoiled brat who had grown up stepping on people he deemed beneath him. I could feel the eyes of my former classmates on me. Some amused, others just curious to see how far this would go. The class leader, clearly nervous, approached once again, trying to ease the tension. "Fernando, just apologize and be done with it. It's not worth turning this into something bigger." I chuckled softly, shaking my head. Apologize? For what? For not wanting to continue this ridiculous reunion? For not bowing down to a spoiled brat who thinks he's some kind of gangster? Raphael smirked arrogantly and slowly clapped his hands. "Bravo, Fernando. You really think you're above me, don't you?" He then gestured, and the bodyguards blocking my exit took a step forward. Two of them grabbed my arms firmly, but I didn't resist. "Not yet. You know, Fernando, there are things money can solve very easily. And at the end of the day, people like you always end up crawling back, begging for an opportunity to work for us." I said nothing. I simply smiled. A cold, humorless smile. "Oh, so now you're quiet?" Raphael mocked. "Maybe because you finally realized you have no way out." I let out a slow sigh and shrugged, making the two bodyguards tighten their grip. "Do you really think you can do whatever you want to me here and get away with it?" I muttered to Raphael. He laughed. "And who's going to stop me? You? No. The law." Then I played my trump card. "Do you even know my position in the government, Raphael? Do you have any idea who I know? Because unlike you, my influence doesn't come from a bank account. You might have money, but you can't erase everything that happens here today." The laughter stopped. I saw some classmates' eyes widen. Raphael blinked a few times, as if trying to process my words. "You're bluffing," he spat. "Try your luck." The bodyguards hesitated. They clearly weren't comfortable with the situation, which meant Raphael wasn't as untouchable as he thought. "You really think you could just walk away from here?" Raphael sneered. "I can ruin your career with a single phone call." "Then do it," he faltered. "Call whoever you want, Raphael. Make your threats. But just know that if I want to, by tomorrow you'll be drowning in tax audits, money laundering investigations, and every other shady deal your family has been running without even realizing it. You think you can intimidate me? I am exactly the kind of person you should be afraid of." Silence fell over the room. The bodyguards immediately let go of me. Raphael stood frozen, his hands trembling slightly. Mariana looked between us, confused, as if she couldn't understand how the situation had turned against them so quickly. I adjusted my coat and started walking toward the door. No one tried to stop me anymore. But before leaving, I stopped next to Raphael and murmured just for him to hear. "If you lay a finger on me, your family will lose much more than just an expensive dinner." Then, without looking back, I walked out of the room. In the following days, Raphael tried everything to get back at me. He called contacts, tried pulling strings behind the scenes, but nothing worked. I had already anticipated his every move, so I acted first. And within less than a month, the first audits began. It didn't take long for fraud to be uncovered. Shell companies, tax evasion, corruption schemes. The Fitzroy Group started to collapse from the inside. Raphael realized too late that he had messed with the wrong person. The last I heard of him, he was desperately trying to sell properties to cover the fines and avoid prosecution. His arrogance had turned into fear. And Mariana? Well, she disappeared from his life the moment she saw the money wasn't guaranteed anymore. As for me, I moved on. I kept climbing, building my influence the right way without having to step on anyone, and I was never invited to another class reunion again. After that day, I never received another invitation to a class reunion. In fact, I doubt any of them have even mentioned my name since. To them, I became a ghost, someone who existed but was no longer convenient to remember. But for me, that wasn't a problem. If anything, it was a relief. Raphael, on the other hand, watched his life fall apart before his very eyes. The investigations into Fitzroy Group started small, discreet, but as more irregularities surfaced, they snowballed into something unstoppable. It was almost entertaining to watch from a distance as he desperately tried to put out the fire. First, he attempted to bribe the investigators. It didn't work. Then, he tried to leverage his political contacts, only to realize that no one wanted to be associated with a sinking ship. In the end, he was forced to sell off several of his family's businesses just to cover the financial damages and pay the ever-growing fines. The arrogance he flaunted that night at the restaurant gradually faded, replaced by sheer desperation. But the final blow came when his own father, realizing that Raphael was incapable of saving the family empire, disowned him. With no money, no power, and no one left to defend him, Raphael was reduced to an ordinary man. No status, no influence, not even a decent job. The last I heard of him, he was struggling to run a small restaurant, failing miserably. Some people are born for greatness, but Raphael? He was just a spoiled kid who never learned how the real world worked. And Mariana? Well, it was no surprise to anyone that she vanished the moment Raphael's wealth was no longer guaranteed. She tried to attach herself to other businessmen, hoping to maintain the lifestyle she was used to, but soon realized she wasn't as special as she believed. People like her only have value as long as they're an extension of someone powerful. And without Raphael, she was nothing more than an ordinary woman, boring, untalented, and with no real appeal beyond her looks. I heard she tried to marry a middle-aged executive, a divorced man who had little interest in her beyond using her as a trophy. It didn't last long. As soon as he realized she was more of a burden than a benefit, he discarded her. Now, Mariana lives a very different life from what she once envisioned. She works at a luxury boutique, selling clothes to the same wealthy women she once envied and tried to imitate. And perhaps the most ironic part of it all is that if she had stayed with me back then, she could have had everything she ever wanted. The class leader remained the same, always trying to please others, always balancing between sides to avoid fully committing. In the end, he was just a mediocre man, someone who never had the courage to take a stand to make a real decision. He reached out to me once, after everything, trying to justify himself, saying he didn't want to get involved, that he just wanted to keep the peace. I simply looked at him and shook my head. People like him don't deserve respect, only pity. And the others? Most moved on with their lives. Some remained trapped in the cycle of flattery and pretense, while others finally realized that the real world wasn't like high school. But overall, they all followed the same path, desperately trying to maintain appearances, to prove they were successful, wealthy, happy. A fragile illusion held together by the fear of being seen as failures. And me? I moved forward. I built my career, expanded my influence, and achieved everything through my own efforts. Unlike Raphael, I didn't inherit anything. Every achievement, every victory, every bit of recognition was earned through hard work. And that's the difference between us. Sometimes I wonder if any of them still think about me. If Raphael wakes up in the middle of the night, seething with anger, knowing he was the one who orchestrated his own downfall. If Mariana regrets the choices she made. If she looks back and realizes she threw away the only real opportunity she ever had. If the others remember the last time they saw me and now understand that they laughed at the wrong person. But in the end, none of that matters. Because I never needed their validation. I never needed the approval of a bunch of shallow people driven by money and status. I am proof that those who truly have value don't need to shout to be noticed. Time always puts everyone in their rightful place. And in their case, there is no worse place than the shadow of their own choices.